Welcome to the third edition of QuayCast, news, discussions and insights from Key Pharmaceuticals, one of the fastest growing CDMOs in the world today. In this episode, Audrey Vardy talks to Mick Card, a KTP Advisor, about the Knowledge Transfer Partnership Programme.
So my name is Audrey Vardy and I'm the Head of Business Development here at Key Pharma for our preclinical formulation services. Recently, Key Pharma and Liverpool John Moores University were awarded funding for a knowledge transfer partnership to develop novel industry-relevant methods of manufacturing enabled nanoparticle formulations of poorly soluble drugs to improve and enhance delivery of the drug to the GI tract. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the KTP programme itself. So I'm delighted to be joined by Mick Card, who is the KTP Advisor for North Wales, Merseyside and West Cheshire. So Mick, thank you so much for joining me today. Before we really start to discuss the KTP programme in general, I just wondered if you could kind of introduce yourself, give me a little bit of background and just maybe a little bit of explanation on the journey of how you became involved with the KTP programme itself.
Morning, Audrey. Hi there. Yeah, good question. So I've been involved with KTP for about 3 years in my role as a regional advisor. Well, I've worked with it for some years before that. And my background is I used to work in commercial banking and asset finance. And I really enjoyed working on some of the investment side of the business that we were looking at. And an opportunity arose probably about 15 years ago to go and join a university working in the fledgling profession of knowledge transfer, which was essentially helping universities to commercialize some of their technologies and work with businesses. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I loved the challenge of bringing different partners together, perhaps from different areas of life and different perspectives, different commercial perspectives, different technical perspectives, and help bring them together to create good, substantial projects. I worked for a few universities. I was head of business development at a university and a commercial manager of a research and innovation centre in North Wales. And then I joined KTN, and I've been looking after knowledge transfer partnerships across the North Wales, Merseyside and Liverpool region for the last 3 years or so.
Perfect. So the programme's obviously been in existence for a bit of time then. I actually remember applying for a KTP associate position when I was finishing my PhD sort of in the early 2000s. So could you just give me a little bit of detail around its sort of history and how long the partnership programme's been in existence?
Yeah, it's been around for quite a while. It's been around for over 40 years now. It used to be called TCS, Teaching Company Scheme. Okay. And then it changed its name to Knowledge Transfer Partnerships. And, it's amazing, actually, Audrey, a number of people who say similar things to me, like you've just said, in that, they were either a former associate or a former supervisor or something on a KTP in the past. It's got an awful lot of alumni, shall we say. And it's become widely recognised as it's definitely Europe's longest lasting knowledge transfer programme, which is quite sort of testament to its strength, really. Anyone who works in this industry would have seen a number of sort of government innovations and interventions, rather, coming in which try to bridge this gap, whereas KTPs have lasted the course, which means there's something good about them. And they've become regarded as the gold standard of knowledge transfer, both from a company perspective in terms of extracting, if you like, information from the academic base, and also from an academic perspective in terms of this is an exemplar program to actually work with.
Great. So with the present day KTPs then, Mick, is it always a combination of an academic partner and an industrial partner then? It's always that sort of relationship between the two types of business, if you like?
It is, Audrey. It's all around the idea of knowledge transfer and the idea of what's currently called diffusion, which is there are knowledge and expertise that exists in certain quarters, and other quarters don't necessarily have access to that. That sounds a bit jargony. So what do I really mean by that? The premise of a KTP is that a company wants to do something new. They want to bring new expertise into their organization so they can do something that's going to have commercial benefit to them. And very often they might see that expertise exists within the academic base. And by academia, we don't just mean universities, we also include what are commonly known as RTOs, research technology organizations. Maybe to some of the listeners to this, they might know them as catapults and such like, catapult centres.
Yeah.
So we work with all of those. And the premise is, the model is exactly the same in that we find a group of academics with particular expertise that is beneficial to the company. We introduce them, they have various conversations around sort of scoping and shaping projects and vision. It's really key that they form a partnership, because KTPs are not a transactional relationship. What I mean by that is that a company is not buying consultancy time from a university or dictating what's going to happen in a very rigid formulaic methodology. What it's really about is establishing a partnership. So you've got the best people around you. And I always say the best KTPs I go to are when I walk into the meetings, project meetings, and they're halfway through the KTP program, and I don't know who people are. Not that I'm being stupid, but I don't know who they work for, because actually they all work as a team together. And so we've got academics side by side with company professionals who have got a common vision in developing this new area of expertise that can be commercially exploited by a company.
Okay, so in terms of kind of the benefit then, that actually sets up quite nicely to think about the benefits both to the sort of the academic partner, and obviously it's maybe more obvious that the benefit to the industrial partner then in terms of that sharing of knowledge. But if you could just expand a little bit on the benefits of from both sides in being involved in one of these KTPs.
Absolutely, yeah. So you're right. I guess the commercial benefits are clearer to see, and I think it's important to stress that we fund KTPs because we want to create wealth. So KTPs are, unlike research council projects, which are primarily funded to create new knowledge, KTPs are funded to create wealth. Okay. What we mean by that is that we want the company to better commercially exploit it and generate new revenues and hence new profits. So the company perspective would be, the company benefit would be very much a commercial one. You've got new expertise within the company, which you can exploit into, I don't know, a new division, a new product, or take it into new market sectors, or new market geographical territories. The academic benefits, well, that's an interesting one. And anyone who's been around academia in the last 10 years or so will be increasingly aware of impact and how important impact is to academia. Looking at it from the other side of the fence, if you like, from a taxpayer perspective, you would say, okay, academia spends the public purse. We invest in universities and such like to do various good things for us as a society. How do we get a return from that? Well, one of the ways we get a return from that is the academic engagement with businesses. So from an academic perspective, it's around showing the impact that you can have on a business, the specific impact where you can say, as a result of doing XYZ project with them, we've allowed the business to grow its revenues by blah, 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 or we've allowed them to enter new markets, or we've helped them create a new product and such like. And that really allows academia to flourish because it allows them to attract more government funding into the universities. It allows them to attract students who are fascinated by the idea of closer working relationships with businesses, and it allows them to attract the best quality academics as well. So it's quite a virtuous circle. Another point perhaps I should mention around academic benefits is that we encourage publications coming from KTP, and you might find that a bit of a strange thing for me to say, given what I said about the commercial emphasis of KTP, particularly companies such as Key Pharma, who have got a very close interest in the intellectual property arising from the KTP, and quite rightly so. Where we talk about publications from KTPs, what we like to encourage is perhaps publications which might be around the process of knowledge transfer, because that helps evidence to other people the benefits of knowledge transfer, the benefits of open innovation programs and collaborative programs with universities. Sometimes we'll have a conscious decision made with the company that we want to release something a little bit more than that, if you like, a teaser, where it might talk about some of the technical gains that have been made without giving away the recipe, as it were, without giving away the intellectual property. And companies very often find that beneficial as a piece of marketing collateral. I suppose it's an extension of the sort of the adverts we used to see on telly all the time, where you had people in white lab coats evidencing the benefits of a certain cat food or shampoo or whatever. I think we've become a bit more sophisticated than that, but companies are certainly finding it quite useful to say, in conjunction with, say, Liverpool John Moores University, we have validated our process, and it helps them build up their the confidence that their market and customers might have in them. So it's mutually beneficial.
That sounds like there are a lot of benefits across the board then that I definitely hadn't considered. So, but during the course of that chat, you mentioned the funding side of things. So could you just explain a little bit more about how the KTPs are actually funded?
Yeah, sure. So KTP is principally funded through Innovate UK, who sit alongside the science research councils within UKRI, all collectively funded through BEIS or by BEIS. That's the Department of Business Enterprise and Industrial Strategy. We're funded to the tune of around about £40 million a year, which allows us to deliver around about 850 partnerships at any one time. Typical partnerships last between 2 and 3 years, as a kind of sweet spot around about sort of 2.5 years or so. We're also very fortunate in that we're co-funded and actively encourage co-funding. We have some co-funding coming from the research councils, such as EPSRC or ESRC. And very importantly, we're also fortunate in that we have co-funding from the devolved governments. So that's coming from the Scottish Funding Council, Invest Northern Ireland, and closer to home for you and I, Welsh Government. And those devolved governments provide us with around about 15% of our overall funding. They have a particular interest in supporting KTPs and knowledge transfer within their regions. They see the KTP vehicle as a really effective vehicle for helping economic growth. The KTP that we have with Key Pharma, we were very delighted in that Welsh Government stepped in and said that they were going to fully fund that project for us, seeing it as a key strategic project within North Wales. So that's really helpful.
Yeah, it was brilliant that it was completely funded by the Welsh Government. So yeah, very, very happy with that too. So so in terms of the types of work that you are looking to fund, obviously, Key Pharma, this is very much sort of life sciences, formulation development sort of sector, if you like. But are there any restrictions as to the type of projects that you would fund, or?
In a word, no. We're open across all sectors and all types of projects. The key really is is funding an expertise gap which will allow a company to move forward commercially. To give you some sort of broader examples of where typical KTPs sit, you mentioned that Key Pharma's KTP is very much in the advanced manufacturing process sort of sector of KTPs. We do a lot of KTPs which are around materials development. There's stuff which is common to Key Pharma where we may have KTPs in things like drug formulation. We have got a growing number of KTPs which are in big data and artificial intelligence. That's a growing area of interest for many, many businesses wanting to understand how they can bring AI into their business to improve efficiency and grow their markets. We've got a big area of KTPs in what we call management capability KTPs. And what we're doing there is we're working with a number of businesses who are saying that they're seeing challenges in scaling up. Some businesses manage to scale up their operations organically, year-on-year growth. And others, perhaps businesses who are well established regionally or in a particular sector, or maybe well-established family businesses. And I'm not talking micro business, I'm talking businesses who are turning over £5-10 million a year, so pretty substantial. And they see ceilings in scaling up, in that a typical example might be that they are wanting to expand geographically, and they've got a fantastic operation in say, the west of England, but they want to replicate it further afield. How do they do that? Because maybe they're reliant upon existing management team, one or two people perhaps, I don't know. And so what they're doing is they're using management KTPs to work with business schools to help them bring in operational resilience, to help them expand the management skills of their middle managers and their operations teams, so that they can roll out the same levels of quality and service across all their markets. And the sort of management KTP has been strongly sponsored by Bays, who are particularly keen on addressing the UK productivity gap. It's fairly well known that the UK is probably sort of second quartile amongst G6 countries, in that our levels of productivity are not as high compared to some of the countries that we might look to as good competitors or comparators. So there's a big emphasis within the UK, which Bays are leading on, to try and help companies address that. And KTPs fill that role quite nicely.
That's really interesting, actually. Yeah, I completely was thinking about the technology sort of focus. I hadn't really appreciated the sort of the business advantage or additional expertise, that you could sort of use from the business school side of things. So yeah, that's something that I had never considered about with the KTP. So that's a really interesting kind of other kind of real benefit of the partnerships between sort of the academic and the sort of industrial need, if you like. Yeah.
One of the things we find common around that theme actually is that, and we're also learning from experience to some extent on this. We've had very good KTPs where we've delivered wonderful technology, that's particularly in IT, and then we've subsequently found there's a problem in adoption, and it's a people issue, which is, so part of the sort of concept of management KTPs is to come back and look at the psychology of technology adoption. Or maybe you've got companies who are developing technology which they want to make more user-friendly. A great example might be assisted living, where you've got businesses who are producing products for people perhaps vulnerable people or disabled people to use in their homes. And as well as the technology of it, there's a huge amount of work that goes on around the psychology and the human adoption of those things. And we're seeing more KTPs operating in that sort of area as well.
Almost sounds like a natural progression, isn't it? You do the first piece and then you find that actually there's nothing to do with the technology per se, but it's that that next piece of getting it then more widely adopted and allowing the business to grow with the technology that they have. So it's almost like almost like a stepwise kind of approach to taking everything forward. So great. So in terms of are there funding rounds, or is it just kind of, you would just submit your application anytime, or, how does that sort of process work?
So we welcome applications at any time. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we pull down those applications roughly every 2 months. So that effectively means that we've got 6 funding rounds per year. So in other words, you've only got 2 months, a maximum of 2 months to wait. Right. And then we pull off all the applications that we've had. They get assessed, they're independently assessed, and then we turn them around quite quickly. It's probably about a 7 or 8 week turnaround, which is pretty fast for any form of public funding. Actually, it's quite a slick process. So we also give all applying partnerships pretty thorough feedback. Success rates for KTPs, application success rates, run around about 75% or so, perhaps a bit higher. So it's pretty good. Part of the reason for that is that we have a team of regional advisors. I'm one of those. And we work with partnerships prior to application to make sure that we're really scoping the best project we possibly can and putting in a well-evidenced application so that you're not left on your own, as it were. We help you make sure you've got a good quality application that's going in.
That's great that you've got the ability to tap into that sort of expertise, if you like, initially, because then it helps. Definitely, I'm sure it helps with the sort of the funding application, and probably just having someone else look at your application will probably add add value to it at that stage. So it's great that you've got that network that you can tap into at the beginning, definitely. So we've heard quite a bit about the benefits to industry and the benefits to academia too with the KTP, but there's a personal side to the program too with the associates. So I know, for example, with the project that we have one associate will be joining LJMU and working with Key Pharma too. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that side of things, Mick, and really what's the benefits to someone who might be thinking of applying for a KTP associate position?
Sure. So as you've just said there, Audrey, the key person really within a KTP is the associate. And the associate is the person that we jointly recruit. So that's a joint recruitment by the company and the university. And we recruit this person to come and work at the company, primarily working at the company. And his or her job is to transfer the expertise from the university into the company. So they're, I don't know, if you like, you could call them a technology spanner. They are a project manager, they're chief technician as well in many instances. And as you can probably imagine, this is not a trivial role. It's a very demanding and actually very rewarding role. There's a bit of I've just tried to kill a bit of an urban myth that says that KTPs are graduate placement schemes. They're absolutely not. We expect and require all our associates to be minimum first degree qualified. Probably about 2/3 of them actually have second degrees as well. The average age of associates has been going up over the years. It's now 31. Wow. And the typical profile of an associate is that they're not a fresh university leaver. They are someone who's perhaps gone into their first or maybe second industry job, and they're looking to expand their horizons. The challenge that KTP gives an associate, is you've got to be well grounded in your technical discipline, but also you've got to be able to integrate that discipline and that expertise into a business environment, which means you've got to be good at innovation, you've got to be good at leadership, you've got to be good at managing people, you've got to be good at enthusing and motivating people. In some cases, perhaps working with cultural change, particularly where we've got, say, management KTPs, where we're looking at changing working practices within organisations. And also, you've got this amazing sort of support network around you, because you will find yourself working with, you will be at the company, you will be sponsored at a senior level effectively, because the company only enter into a KTP when the board want to do a strategic project, which means you're going to have board directors interested in what you're doing. You're going to be working alongside, R&D teams or whatever at various levels within the company, working with that group of people. And then you're working with an academic team. You might have a couple of senior, world-renowned professors in that academic team, and other people from that team. So you've got all these quite awe-inspiring people around you, and your job is to manage some of these people as well. So it's a really interesting perspective. What we also do is another reason why we support KTPs, why we fund them, is in addition to the wealth generation for companies and the impact generation for universities, we want to find future business leaders. We want to find the new innovators who are going to lead businesses into new pastures. And we see associates being very much those ambassadors, if you like. And what we do to help them is, within the KTP project, we have a dedicated ring-fence budget of £2,000 a year for professional development and learning that the associate can undertake. That's not to say that we're taking people who are deficient in any way. It's actually to say we want to grow these people. We give them some support learning, which is, I liken it to a mini MBA type program. We give them dedicated coaching and mentoring. So myself and other advisors sit with our associates on a one-to-one basis every few months or so, and talk to them about their professional development and where they want to go and how they might add value to their personal skill set. And we also encourage a very supportive network around the associate, in that we have a steering board for every KTP project, and all members of that steering board, we come together and we all try to maximise the benefits that each other are getting out of the project. So we look at company benefits, we look at academic benefits, and most importantly, we look at encouraging and supporting the associate to develop themselves. Probably about 80% of associates end up being offered jobs with the host company. That's a tremendous statistic and a testament to the success of the programme. And pretty much always those associates in that position find their careers accelerated by having done a KTP. So it's accelerated compared to some of their peers, in that they end up in more senior jobs within their host companies, say leading an R&D team or leading a product division or something like that. So it really helps them, and we're seeing increasing numbers of applicants who see KTP as a real career accelerator for themselves.
Great. It sounds like a really fantastic opportunity. It sounds challenging, and you'd have to wear lots of hats, but also you're within, as you mentioned, this kind of really nice support network. So it's, allowing you to challenge yourself, but within a bit of a safety net sort of environment is kind of how it sounds, which is a great kind of opportunity for a candidate. Absolutely. Well, Mick, that's been really, really useful to kind of talk about the KTP programme. And I thought I knew quite a bit about the programme, but I've learned quite a lot. So thank you so much for that. I just wondered if we could end by, have you got a particular success story? I'm sure there are hundreds, especially if there's 800 kind of in progress at any one time. I'm sure it's sort of difficult to pick, but is there any one success story that you could maybe mention just to finish off?
There's all sorts of success stories, and I think that some of the we find success in different ways. Sometimes it's a fantastic success for developing collaboration between a company and a university where the company have never used universities before. It's a new world for them. Sometimes we have superb success with individual associate career development. One of my current projects is with a company in the Northwest who are in the aerospace manufacturing sector, and they've taken on a KTP associate to look at digital manufacturing. They've been working in their business 40 odd years. They are in a strong position. They work with major customers such as Rolls-Royce. And they've brought in this associate who's been looking at digital manufacturing, which allows them to install a whole suite of techniques which allow them to improve traceability of product, to improve product manufacturing efficiency. And as a result of that, within the first 9 months of starting that KTP, Rolls-Royce came in and looked at what they were doing, and they said, do you know what? You are streets ahead of some of your competitors here. We really like what you're doing. That order we've just given you, we're actually going to double the order. And the order, I can't disclose the number, but it was a significant 7-figure order.
Wow.
So as a result of doing the KTP and increasing, therefore, the validity and confidence in their own processes, their customer, a highly discerning international customer, said, this is worthwhile. And as a result of that, we've got more confidence in you. We're going to give you more business. So that's one of my favourite current success stories.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Mick. That's been, as I say, a really interesting discussion around the KTP framework. Thank you so much for your time. And I can't wait to see how our most recent KTP between Key Pharma and Liverpool John Moores actually goes. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about that again in the future.
Thank you very much, Audrey. It's been delightful. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to QuayCast. Please share and follow for future episodes.